Marketing Your Private Practice is a podcast where you'll learn easy to implement tips and strategies to grow your business without spending all day online. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and I teach practitioners the Thrive marketing method to create simple and streamlined plans by focusing on long-term strategies, not just social media. Discover ways to spend less time on your marketing, attract more clients, and build the financial freedom that comes with a thriving practice. One where you have time left in your day for the people and things that matter to you. Hey there, private practice heroes. Thanks for tuning into the podcast today. I'm your host, Kathy Colaiacovo, and today we're going to continue on with some of the lessons I've been doing recently about pricing and offers and packaging and being so strategic with the offers and services that you have that you're ensuring it is as simple as possible for clients to say, yes, I want to sign up for that. How do I get started? So if you are someone who is finding that people hem and they haw when you talk to them about working with you, about getting them to sign up for your services, if you find that they're asking all sorts of questions about what you have to offer and they're not finalizing anything, they're not making any decisions, and they're leaving the call saying, oh, I'll get back to you, I need to think about it a little, and then they ghost you. Well, if that is you, then this lesson is one I want you to pay attention to, because it's going to help turn those moments of indecision and ghosting by potential clients into decisive moments and having them ask questions like, where do I sign up? We talked about this in episode 114, where I shared how having fewer offers can mean getting and booking more clients. It is all about keeping things simple and easy. And in that lesson, I mentioned a 1-2 offer setup strategy that I've taught members of my Thrive Marketing Academy to do and that I use myself. This strategy for your services, for your offers, and how you set it up makes it very easy for people to get to that place where they decide on their own. And they actually do say things like, oh my gosh, where do I sign to work with you? How can I do more with you? And in that episode, I talked about one of the students in my academy and how she did this very thing. She cut back on all of her coaching offers, went from having a half a dozen of them, and she had offers and services that were for so many different ways of clients. And for the clients, everything just sounded similar and they didn't understand the differences between them and they were confused. So nobody was signing up. She cut it all back and went down to 2 offers. And in that first month, she had somebody sign up for her first service in her 1-2 offer setup. And that person was also the same one who said, okay, how do I do more with you? Where do I sign up? Where do I pay for this so that I can keep working with you? And that actually is how easy this can be. My client didn't even have to get into a selling mode or have what she would normally call the sales part of that follow-up call from the first service, because that's what this strategy does. It makes it as easy as a 1-2 punch. Not that I want you punching anybody. We want to make this as easy as possible so that clients fully get how much they will benefit by doing more work with you or even the initial work with you, and they just want to sign up and do more. No selling or sales calls needed. And who doesn't want that? I know I do. I love it when that happens. And most of you listening, you're private practice owners, you're healers. And if that's not what you do, you're probably a service provider and you offer your clients your expertise. I can promise you that I'm pretty sure a few of you got into business to be doing sales. But as a business owner, as the CEO of your business or your practice, you know that sales and marketing are part of what you have to do to grow the business. So who wouldn't want to have a setup of offers, of programs and packages all positioned in such a way that you really don't have to do a lot of what we would call those hardcore sales calls anymore, because you've made it easy for people to see and understand the benefit of working with you and to decide on their own that they love what you have to offer and they want more. They want to sign up. So backtracking here, if you do find that on consults, people aren't making decisions, that they are, flipping back and forth about signing up or not, or even saying, oh, I'll think about it and let you know, and they never call back. Well, if that is you, and if you have a lot of offers, more than 3, and you have so many packages and services that you have a hard time sharing them to someone without having a list of them all in front of you, then I want you to stop what you're doing right now and get out your pen to take some notes on this lesson today. Now, if you're walking and listening to this lesson, I get that you probably can't take out your pen, but what you can do is come back to it, because I will lay out in the show notes some of the steps that you need to do for this 1-2 offer setup strategy. And I promise, if you get this into place, if you cut back on those offers, it will help you get more clients, and it will make it even easier to book those clients, because they come to that decision on their own a lot easier than you having to really show and share and get into details trying to explain how you can help them. They're going to see how working with you is exactly what they need. But before we dive into this actual strategy, I want to remind you, this is only going to be effective if you have cut back on your offers and your services the way I shared in episode 114. Now, that one was titled, Why Having Less Offers and Packages Will Increase Client Bookings. So I'm literally talking about having less than 3 ways people can work with you, 3 offers that you talk to them about on a consult or a discovery call. And to be honest, this lesson in this strategy in particular does work best with just 2 offers. So I want you to remember that as we go into the lesson and we talk about this strategy. And if you're not sure what I mean about cutting back and understanding why that is so important, then I want you to go back first and listen to episode 114 so that you can have that understanding of why you want to have fewer offers and how doing that can actually bring you more sales. All right, let's dive in here. So at this point, we know you only have a couple of services or packages or offers that you're going to present to anybody on a consult or a discovery call, or even people on your website. What you typically want to have here is have a path between the 2 offers. So a client would ideally do one service with you, which I'm going to call the first offer, and then the second one follows after that. When we look at this 1-2 offer setup strategy, you always want to have that first offer be something that gives people a way to work with you so that they get a taste of what that is like. It's more like an introductory service, I guess. And I'm not talking about offering this for free, okay? I want you to charge for this service. It is a paid service. The offer you give them, what you talk about when it comes to this service, you're not talking about giving it away for free. And it's really important that you understand none of this strategy is about you giving up anything for free, because I want people to have a discovery call with you, and then I want you to pay for the first service, this intro service. And this becomes the initial service where they get to experience working with you. They pay you, they work with you. They get a result from working with you. And that's really important in this process. In this intro service, you help them and you give them a solution. But it's only one piece of a bigger solution to that overall problem that they have. The problem that has caused them in the first place to go out looking for someone like you, to research and find someone like you in the first place. The second offer in this 1-2 offer setup is a service that is a longer term way of working with you. And typically, because it is longer, it's going to cost more money as well. So it's a higher investment for people. This offer is how people will do more with you, and it's intended to have them commit to working with you longer term. It's more about having what I call that full meal deal experience with you, if you will. And you want to ensure that you take them from start to finish to deal with their problem. So part 1 of this is just one piece of the puzzle. Part 2 will be filling in the rest of the puzzle. And they often know they want to do part 2 with you because they experienced firsthand how effective you were and how you worked with them in part 1. And that is the 1-2 offer setup strategy. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you an example from my own services so you can see how they would fit together. Okay. For my 1-2 offer setup, I have a 2-week marketing roadmap service that I offer, and I have a 6-month private marketing coaching service. So people can do a one-off service with me for 2 weeks, or they can work with me for 6 months. Now, I do have a third offer here. I don't want to confuse you. If you're starting out with this, go with just the 2. But I do have my Thrive Marketing Academy, which is a 12-month service that people get with me. That is one that is a little bit different than the private marketing coaching service where they work with me one-on-one. But what is key here is I have this intro service, and that intro service can lead to either the 6-month private coaching or it can lead to the 12-month academy. It just really depends on what the client is looking for. So the 2-week roadmap, people will hire me, we get results, we do some work together, but we only focus on one area, one piece, one problem they have. It's that taste of what I can do to help them out. The other 2 options of working with me are longer commitments in both time and a higher commitment in money that it costs. So for both of them, it's about 5 times the amount of money as it would be for that initial intro service for the 2-week roadmap. So not everyone is ready when you talk to them to book in and start with you for 6 months, or in my case, 12 months. Not everyone's ready for that at the beginning when they talk to you. So that's why having this 1-2 offer setup strategy is so key. So the 2-week roadmap that I offer is element 1 in this 1-2 offer setup strategy. And the private coaching that I have is element number 2. As I mentioned, sometimes the academy will work if people are looking to learn more and really dive into how to do things. The private coaching is typically what they buy when they're looking for custom guidance and advice on steps on what to do. They're not so much looking to learn how to do the marketing because they either have the skills already or they have a VA or an admin helping them. But there are times when the academy will come into play as number 2 element in my strategy here. But for the most part, when folks come to me, they're looking for help to grow their practice, their business. A lot of time they want that initial one-on-one help. When I talk to them on the consults, they're stuck. They don't know what to do next. They're wasting their time. They're wasting their energy. They're wasting their money. They feel like they're spinning their wheels with their marketing. And if they are ready to make a big change, then they're typically looking to work with me one-on-one. So this is where I will talk to them on the consult and let them know I have 2 options. One is a 2-week service that's a way to deal with one aspect of what they have. And the other option is 6 months of one-on-one work together. And then the other option is to work with me for 6 months in the private coaching. So going longer, going deeper, and dealing with more of the issues that they have. A lot of folks who have signed up for the second part without the first part are typically people who've been referred by others, and they have that trust factor that's already needed for them to say yes to the longer term right away. Most people aren't in that situation. They want to test it out. They're not quite sure if they're ready to dive in for 6 months and a longer term. They're not sure if they're ready to commit to that kind of money right away. So element number 1, the 2-week roadmap, is a way for them to test things out. This is ideal for those who wonder if the bigger program, which can appeal to them, they're just wondering though, is it the right step? And they're not ready to say yes to 6 months and paying a few $1,000s. So this is where your intro offer comes into play. That intro offer is going to offer people a way to get one part of the problem dealt with for a fee that costs less than the other service. It should also offer them a fairly quick timeline to get initial results and steps to move forward. So an intro service like this, you don't want it to last for a couple months. Really, under a couple weeks is all you should do with this, and it shouldn't go any longer like that. The idea is you want to give people that option to work with you that's not as big a commitment, and it's positioned in such a way that they're still going to get a benefit and a value, but it's a way that they can test you out before they move into working with you long term. When you don't have an intro offer like this, and folks are wavering on whether working with you is the right decision for them or not, they're wondering how they move forward, and the only path you have is something that's longer term. you're typically going to get a no to everything, a no to the sale and a no to having a new client because they're just not sure that they're ready for that deeper commitment. So this is the same kind of offer that I talked about that my client I mentioned earlier in the academy had such success with. So previously, she'd had only options for working with her for 2 and 3 months of coaching services. And she had about a half a dozen different names of programs. And she was trying to offer people all sorts of options and solutions for them, but nobody was buying because there was too many, it was too much, it was too confusing. And for most of them, they were going to be a longer term commitment at first. So when she cut back on the offers, she went down to 2. She had her intro one, and then she had the 3-month coaching program. So it's the exact setup that I'm talking about here. She then found on her very first discovery call after having set this up, someone signed up immediately for the intro service for the part 1, the element 1 in the 1-2 offer setup strategy. And it was an easy yes and decision for them because number 1, she was only now talking to them about 2 options in 2 ways on that consult call. She had 2 ways for them to work with her. She had the initial one, which was essentially a one-off strategy session. And then she had the longer 3-month coaching program. So for the person on the consult, they understood the difference. One was shorter, less investment. You dealt with something right away. One was longer. They weren't ready to say yes to the 3 months, but they happily said yes to the initial offer one, the intro service. And she set this up exactly the way I taught her, with the main part of that intro service being 1 call with her. There's usually a bit of background work and something else. We're going to talk about that a little more in the next episode about the specifics of setting these 2 offers up. But what she did was she has the 1 big call with them, the strategy session, we'll call it. And then there's a check-in call or a follow-up call that happens in the 2nd week. And this is a critical part of this setup strategy. I will talk to you more about that and share more about it on the next episode. But all you need to know right now is she did have a follow-up call that was part of the overall 1-2 offer setup strategy. And this is typically a 15, 20-minute check-in call with people after the service is complete. It's a way for you to offer them some next steps now that they've done that work with you. And ideally, where they go next is the longer-term offer you have, which is element number 2 in the 1-2 offer setup strategy. So element 2 is that longer-term package that you offer them. This is where they're going to invest more time and money in accessing this service with you. So for me, it's the 6-month private coaching I offer. For my client, it was her 3-month coaching program. For both of us, the initial intro service led nicely into the next longer term offer. And that's why this strategy works so well. The longer term service is where they get to do more with you, work more with you, gain more from you, get more time with you, and get more results for them. So their time working with you in the intro service really nicely segues into the longer term service, the element 2 in your 1-2 offer setup. And it works so nicely because it flows well if you set it up properly. And that's why the move from the intro to the longer term service is often one that doesn't require a lot of selling from you, because the initial selling was done way back before they signed up for the intro service when you had that consult or discovery call. That's where you laid out the options to them of how they work with you. It's either this one-off short 2-week service that I have, or it's the 6-month one. In my case, that's what I would tell them. So the discovery call is where you lay that out, where you have a bit of that sales conversation in explaining to them the differences here. When they sign up for the intro service and you've completed that service, if they're ready to do more and they were impressed and they were happy with your initial service and they are gung-ho, they already have an inkling of what doing more with you is from the initial consult you had at the very beginning. And this is why the check-in call is so important as part of the service you offer for your intro service, because these are almost always where people are going to be asking you that question of where do they sign up and how can they do more with you? Because they were already sold on what came next back from your initial consult. When they're on the check-in call, they're talking about what happened with the intro service. They're finding out, anything, questions that they might have to move on. And they know that if they want to move on and do more with you, they know exactly what that looks like. And that is the beauty of this 1-2 offer setup strategy. It gives the clients the experience of working with you, having paid you for that work too, okay? And that time with you on the intro service helps them learn if the decision they want to make to work with you and do more in depth and longer is the right one for them. They come to this conclusion on their own. You don't have to do a ton of selling and talking to them about why they should do this and why they should continue. They have typically realized that themselves because of the great service you gave to them in that element 1, that intro service. And this is why streamlining your services and your offers is the first step in this entire marketing strategy for your programs and your services. Once you've cut them back, then you move into applying this 1-2 offer setup strategy into how you position those 2 services. And then after you've got that figured out comes the pricing strategy that you want to apply to these 2 services as well. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next episode. Because for now, what I want you to realize, I want you to start thinking about how you can plan out the 2 elements you need in this 1-2 offer setup strategy. That's all I want you to focus on at this point. Number 1, you've cut back your services. You have 2, maybe 3 offers. And now you have to make sure that you have an intro offer, element number 1, and a longer term offer, element number 2, to make this all work. And that's your action step from today's episode. I want you to review your services, your programs, your packages, and decide how you're going to streamline them, especially if you haven't done this already. I want you to look at how you can cut those back to 2 or 3 services. And then part 2 of that homework for you, your action step, is to determine what 2 services will best fit together. And we'll have that flow from the initial or the intro service into the longer term service. Once you have those 2 offers, those 2 services identified, then you're going to be ready to apply the pricing and the packaging of them to create the final look of those 2 offers. And that's what we'll cover in the next episode, because we want to make sure that we're pricing and packaging them. And there is a way to do this so that the 2 services appeal to clients in such a way that they're almost selling themselves to your clients because it just makes so much sense to them. So this is where this comes into play. Now, one thing that typically happens for people when we're looking at cutting back on these offers, and maybe you've done that already, sometimes you don't have that intro service. So at this stage, you may have to develop or create one. And that may be something where if you didn't have something like I have, the 2-week roadmap or an initial coaching session where you give them a little extra time. Again, we'll talk about how you position that next time. But if you don't have something like that where they can work with you for a short period of time for a very specific focus and not take a long time to deliver what you have to offer, you will need to look at creating that. That needs to be element 1 in your 1-2 offer setup. So if the 2 services that you're looking at right now are both longer term, I want you to really assess what you have and think about how you could develop your own initial intro service, because that is going to be key to making this work. And the idea is that you want people to see these 2 offers as having a way for them to try you out with one and get, an initial problem solved or a piece of the puzzle. And then once they see how easy it was to get that solution, they'll want more. And more importantly, they're going to really understand the value of working with you versus you having to go through all your past sales training and resell them all over again, talking objections and reasons why and how your services help. When you have this 1-2 offer setup strategy in place, people don't need that secondary sell into things because they will understand how it's going to work and benefit them right away. And that's when you start having people say, just sign me up. Just sign me up right now. And honestly, that can happen more often than you realize, especially when you have this strategy in place and you're marketing your services with these two simple options for people to choose from. So I really hope you'll consider taking some action, assessing your offers, assessing your services and your packages, and looking at how you could put two of them into this 1-2 offer setup. And that's it for today. This is Kathy Colaiacovo signing off, saying thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time, and we're going to get into the pricing and the packaging and the strategy of how you can make these offers even easier and more appealing to people so that more of them will be saying yes to working with you. And remember, to thrive in practice or business, you need clients to pay you for your services. That's your income. And the easier you can make it for people to decide to work with you, and the more clients you sign up and book into your schedule, the more you're going to find you're growing that income and getting your practice to where you want it to be, which is thriving in business, helping you thrive in life. I'll see you next time. You can find all of our show notes and resources mentioned at marketingyourprivatepractice.com. Be sure to connect with me on Instagram at pepperitmarketing and say hi. I'd love to hear any feedback you have, and make sure to rate and review the podcast and hit subscribe on your favorite player so you don't miss any future episodes.